You booked your next trip. Now get Saily, the worldwide eSIM data service. Choose your destination and plan, and activate just before you go. No plastic SIM cards, no phone number changes, no dodgy Wi-Fi spots. Just affordable mobile data, wherever you are. Try Saily and connect instantly. Saily, always connected, always on course.
Welcome back to the Football Terrace. Hit the like buttons. Make sure you are subscribing. Aston Villa 2, Manchester City 1. Another defeat for Pep Guardiola and his boys. I want to shout out our title sponsors for today's show at Saily eSIM, brought to you by our friends at NordVPN. More on them a little bit later, but you can scan that QR code right now to get a big 15% discount off of the eSIMs. If you're a traveler, if you're someone that gets about a bit, that is something that you are going to need. What a way to start the weekend's football. An excellent pulsating game. Lots to talk about, to sink our teeth into. And as ever, you, the viewers, to give us your views, opinions, and much, much more. Terry wrong yet again. Listen, I can't believe you all fell for it. I was tempting the football gods, Ali. Can't you see that with that result? I was tempting them. I was tempting the football gods. Not with the other one, but with this one, I most certainly did. Thank you, Nav, for encouraging everybody to get that like button hit. Make sure you're getting that done. Football God says, stay humble. There's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of truth to that indeed. Big up Mama Flossie, who's here watching the show with us today. Pep needs to resign. I'm going to bookmark that, and I'll come back to that a little bit later in the show. And by the way, if we get in 15 super chats today, we are going to gift out 5 free eSIMs from Saily to our viewers as well. So just a reward. You don't need to super chat, but if you do, unlike most YouTube channels, we're actually going to give something back to our viewers. We've been giving away free memberships all week, and that's something we're going to give out to you all today. 27 goals conceded in their last 12 games for City. You're absolutely spot on. When if anybody's saying that's horrendous, they're beyond right. It is absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible from a Manchester City perspective. It really, really is. Now, look, I want to break this game down. I want to break this game down. I want to break this game down. I said it right in the end. Aston Villa were amazing. And I want to take absolutely nothing away from how good Villa were during this match. They had 2 game plans for the first half and second half. They know that City have a propensity to fall off in the second 45 minutes. They let City have a lot of the ball. One of the best elements of the setup from Villa is they packed the central areas. They made it hard for Phil Foden and very, very difficult for Gundogan to feed that ball into Erling Haaland. And if you cut Haaland's supply, there's very little you get from that man in this City team and setup. They also encouraged the ball to go out to that left-hand side to Jack Grealish. They felt he is going to do very little, a bit like teams do when they play Arsenal. They let Martinelli have the space and they take the opportunities away from Saka by putting 2 or 3 men on him, by packing the central areas to stop Odegaard. They feel comfortable that 1v1, they can handle Martinelli. Very similar today with Jack Grealish. And barring one good cross into the box, which I did think Guardiola should have got his header on target, awful day for Jack Grealish, an abysmal day for him. That was very, very good indeed from Villa. Individually, Uri Tielemans, man of the match, not just for the brilliant touch and turn and the ball through to Morgan Rogers in the build-up to the first goal, but almost every touch, every turn, he managed to create space for himself. He bullied the Manchester City midfield and just dominated the territories in and out of possession. I thought he was majestic today. TNT Sports here in England gave him the man of the match, and he thoroughly and fundamentally deserved it. He was absolutely tip-top. He really, really was. Morgan Rogers, the ex-City player, again, the way he was carrying the ball today, the way he drove through that City team, Have you ever been to a summer wedding? Here in the UK, when I was a kid, I went to loads. Lots of my family got married in the summer. And I remember once I was hungry and there's a buffet out. My dad said, go and get some food. And I remember I picked up a bit of French bread, French stick as we call it here. And I thought, I'll butter a couple of bits of French stick, put it on my plate with the rest of the buffet food. And I picked up this knife and I went to touch the butter and it basically fell apart. It fell apart because it had melted because it was such a warm summer's day. That was Morgan Rogers pushing through the Manchester City midfield today. It was like a white hot knife through extremely warm butter. It was so simplistic and easy for him. And then John Durán. Now, I need to hold an L here. When people at the end of last season were bigging up John Durán, I wasn't that impressed. He scored a few good goals. I wasn't that impressed. I thought it was good, but that was about it. I was wrong. This man is excellent. Yes, he scored his goal well today. He had an opportunity very early on and it was saved. Didn't let that bother him. Scores 15 minutes later. But I'm taking his goal out of the equation for a moment. And all his goals out of the equation this season. His hold-up play today. And by the way, he was up against some really good defenders. Very good defenders. And the ball sticks to his foot like Velcro. He's very quick in his decision-making. He'll control the ball. He might have a look over his left or right shoulder. He'll twist and he'll turn and he'll feed the ball out into the correct areas. Extremely good at that. Extremely good at that. He links up the play well. He helps create space for his teammates. Phenomenal. Tielemans, Rogers, John Durán, take a bow today, gentlemen, because you were majestic. And both goals, I already mentioned the first one, the touch, the turn, and the pass from Youri Tielemans. If there was that would win an Oscar if he was an actor. I don't know how you do. In football, there isn't an award for sort of move of the season. You get goal of the season, there's player of the season, but there's no sort of like supporting actor award. If this was a movie today, Youri Tielemans wins best supporting actor, 110%. That touch, turn, and pass was out of this world. The second goal I enjoyed even more, though. The second goal was amazing because Morgan Rogers picks up the ball and again drives through that midfield, steaming hot knife through very warm butter. And what Youri Tielemans does, if you've not played football, you won't get it. He makes a run on the overlap when John McGinn gets the ball. And it ensures that space is opened up in the middle for Morgan Rogers. He gets it back. He goes on the outside, left-footed shot before Ortega reset himself, and bang, 2-0. And I know City went on to get a late consolation goal, but it was over from that point. The scoreline doesn't suggest it, but City were again destroyed, outclassed. Well, by far, without a shadow of a doubt, they were the inferior side today. I don't think anybody is going to deny that. So I need to update the title. I didn't actually update the scores on the title there. But they were absolutely fundamentally beaten today, in my personal opinion. Yes, they had some half chances, but you know what stood out to me the most today for City before we get on to some of their individuals? Grealish had 4 or 5 shots. I know Foden ends up scoring, and maybe that's going to stand him in better stead for the next game. They've lost their belief. This is no smoke, no digs, no attack, nothing along those lines whatsoever. But for me, they've lost their confidence. They had space and openings at times in this game because let's not pretend that Villa are on the greatest run in the history of their football club either. But they were just absolutely, they just look shot. These City players look physically and mentally absolutely shot to pieces. They really, really do. And I want to understand your thoughts and feelings on that. Aside from that, individually, Jack Grealish today, disaster. You could argue maybe a little unlucky that Matty Cash didn't pick up a booking earlier, because what Matty Cash did to Grealish today is what Gary Neville did to the late Antonio Reyes when Man United stopped Arsenal's 49-game unbeaten run. It was just, I'm just going to hurt you. I'm going to go through the back of you. I'm going to foul you. He was probably pinching his thighs and putting his studs down his Achilles when nobody was looking. It was a bit of an old school defensive performance against him, but he stunk. He stunk. The central midfield of Manchester City today absolutely reeked. There's nothing they did good. Nothing at all. Gundogan, awful. Kovacic, awful. Defensive backline. What I thought was hilarious is they were getting hurt. But bringing on Walker, bringing on Kyle Walker, who has been absolutely horrendous to try and save you at half time, I thought that was a shocking move. A shocking move indeed by the manager, Pep Guardiola. It made no sense to me. I don't get why Walker is still coming onto the football pitch. He was awful. Phil Foden, look, if you go on to the who scores and the sofa scores, because he got a goal, he'll probably have anywhere between a 6.8 and a 7.5 rating, because the goal will always do that for you. And he had some good touches and some good movement. But Phil Foden's confident. Maybe the goal will help him. But it was a overall performance that was just devoid of ideas, and belief. Bernardo Silva looked about 65 years old out there on the pitch. Almost no impact whatsoever throughout the course of the game. And of course, Erling Haaland. Everybody knows how much I rate him. I think he's a phenomenal striker, an absolutely brilliant finisher. But without the creativity, without the ball coming into him, nothing. He's nothing. Absolutely. He can't do anything for the City team if they're not creating for him. And where I feel a bit sorry for him is when you think about it, you've got Grealish, Silva, Foden. You had Savio and Doku coming on. How they are not creating chances is beyond me. And when you look at Manchester City overall, when I say beyond me, it's because they've lost belief. That's the reason I believe it's where they're at. When you break it down, this is City's last 12 games. 1 win, as we know, against Nottingham Forest. But they're now on a course of 4 games without a win again. Only 1 win in their last 12. 3 defeats on the bounce. 6 goals in that period conceded. And if we're being honest, their goal against Man United come from a deflected cross. Nothing created after that. Right at the end today, a little bit of complacency, a little bit of a mistake from Aston Villa, a consolation goal in the last minute. This is the worst run of form in the history of Premier League champions. The saving grace of Manchester City is they have a very favourable run of games coming up. So I was looking at this earlier on today. City do have a very, very favourable group of games coming up. They're at home to Everton, away to Leicester. They should be winning those 2 even in this form. I don't know if they've played anybody of that level in this run of 12 games is the point, right? That everybody they've played, who's the worst? Man, you could argue United are probably the worst team they've played in that period. They went away to Palace as well. But they've had a lot of tough games in this period. But home to Everton, away to Villa, they should be winning. Then they're at home to West Ham. They should be winning. They're not very good. Then they're at home to Salford. The next 4 games should be W's. And I say that even with this bad form. The real problem, I've seen a lot of people in the comments, and I'm going to defend Pep Guardiola here, saying Pep should resign, Pep should walk away. This is a horrendous run. I'm not going to deny that. However, and I mean this, if in the next 4 games he only picks up 1 victory in them, draws, loses 2 of them, they still perform badly, they barely win, then I think a real serious conversation has to be had about whether or not Pep should be taking this team forward. Yes, I know they've had injuries. Yes, some players have been moved on. But I am looking at one of the greatest managers of all time. I want him to make this City team competitive again. And if I'm being honest with you, barring the Nottingham Forest game in the last 12 matches, they've not been that competitive, and it's got worse. Now, as I've said, there've been a lot of tough games in that 12-game period. Spurs, Liverpool. They played, obviously, Manchester United. They played Juventus. Away to Brighton isn't an easy game. They played Amarim Sporting. The next 4 matches will be if we're going to be in a 16-game period, will be the 4 worst teams they've played in that 16-game spread. If by the end of that, they've only picked up 1 good performance or 1 win, then I am going to start having that conversation with City fans around, is it right that he continues? Not that he's a bad manager. Listen, and I want to make very sure that, because what you're going to get now is people suffering with cognitive dissonance. They're not going to listen to what I've said. They're just going to hear talking about Pep's future. Oh, you're saying he's crap? No, this is the Football Terrace. We don't do that type of analysis. Well, I don't. The panelists may, because I don't control them. I'm talking about whether or not maybe he's just lost his want, his desire, his hunger to keep you at the top. He said already that he couldn't manage another club when he leaves because he wouldn't have the hunger and desire to rebuild another club. Maybe with this bad run of form, maybe that's just been expedited and it's a conversation. What I will not be doing, myself, Terry Fleurs on the Football Terrace, is trying to take away from the career of Pep, because I spend so much time defending and talking about the greatness my club has had in the past. And I hate how people try to undo it. That is something I'm not going to do to Pep. You're all free to write whatever you want in the comments section. I am just not going to personally participate in that. So, yeah, I disagree with a lot of your comments. I appreciate them about Pep's got to go. Pep's been exposed. Pep's a checkbook manager. I don't believe that stuff. I don't believe he should be sacked at this point. I believe conversations have to be had around making him more competitive, but they have had some hard games in this period. The next 4 matches, I think, are hugely significant for those conversations. So when people like this say Pep needs to resign, I think it's too early to suggest that. Say he doesn't win any of his next 4 matches and the performances are like this, then I think you've got a real issue. Because even with Rodri out, even with some slightly older players, you are so superior to your next 4 teams, City. There are no excuses other than the team ain't playing for the manager for one reason or another. We don't know what those reasons are. Then we'll have those conversations. I think everyone's being a bit premature with that as of right now. I'm going to do some of our super chats. Before I do that, though, I know we spoke about them at the beginning, but I want to give a big shout out to our title sponsors today, who are called Sally eSIM. If you don't know who Sally eSIM are, they're brought to you by NordVPN. They're a brilliant company, and they help provide you with digital eSIMs for your worldwide travel. Why they're really important is, whenever you fly to an international country, whether you're arriving here in the UK or you're going to another part of the world, you're at the airport, people are always trying to give you SIM cards. Sometimes you get scammed doing that, cloned your phone, you get things stolen. But also when you're away, you need an eSIM card because you get much better minutes when you're roaming. And that is exactly what Sally does. However, with Sally, once you've downloaded the app, it's done. Your number doesn't change. You could be traveling through multiple countries, and each time you go through a border, you can switch. It's absolutely amazing. So if you're someone that travels, you're somebody that's got maybe family living abroad and you want to use an eSIM to communicate with them to not use up your data in the UK because it's expensive, go and check out Sally right now. You get a 15% discount on Sally eSIMs, scanning our QR code or using our promo code, which is in our description below, which I believe is Football Terrace. So just put in Football Terrace, all one word, when you check out. But I know a lot of you, as I do, have friends and family that are abroad. A lot of you travel. You need an eSIM so you can use your phone while you're away cheaply, very affordably and safely. So go and check that out either now or at the end of the show. Let's look at these super chats before my panel come out today. First one's a member chat from Sib, who says, we need to have a serious conversation about how poorly Haaland is being coached. Freak goal scorer, but nothing else. Okay, look, you've mentioned that. So I'm going to put the question back to you. You think he's being coached poorly? Explain that. Unpack that. Make the statement and we can have a conversation, because I'm being honest with you, I don't quite know what you mean. So break that down for me, please, brother. And thank you. Look at that. 51 months as a member as well. Legend of a man. Thank you. City losing to normal is too normal now. Seeing them lose still gives me joy, but not that much like before. Well, that happens. I'll tell you what's also happened to this City team is they've lost confidence and belief that teams that play them feel they can get something out the game. And isn't it funny that very good players suddenly look far more human and average when the fear factor about a team goes and when those players lose a bit of belief? And it filters into something I've said for years on the Football Terrace. Yes, ability matters, but most of the time when you see a team absolutely in the mud, but they've spent a lot of money, they have highly paid players, typically there's a mentality issue. And those mentality issues are not just because you don't have high standards. They can be brought in by a lack of confidence. And that is what's going on at City right now. They used to win a lot of their matches in the tunnel. People were intimidated by them. People are no longer scared. That's why these next 4 games are going to be very, very key indeed. Nav here says Pep's the best. I don't care. It's sackable. Why should Pep get extreme protection whilst the media questions other managers on their jobs if it's sackable? I can understand why some people would say it's sackable form. The reason I wouldn't sack Pep right now is I think he can turn it around. I think he's got the ability to turn it around. And let's just say you get rid of him and then your next 2 or 3 managers are awful. And you could have stuck with Pep for another 2 or 3 months, 4 months, and he turns it around, and then you have another 2 or 3 years where you're at your absolute optimum best. I think having where you're right is the lack of criticism towards Pep has been a fundamental joke from the mainstream media. I heard today they went, oh, he's getting a lot of players back now. He had so much of his team out all year. He's had no more injuries than anyone else. Yes, he lost Rodri. I understand that. People keep acting like they had no defenders fit. A lot of these defenders, everyone's mentioned, just go look at the last 12 games. Most of these defenders have been in the team and on the bench. What a lot of City fans were calling out yesterday is he keeps rushing players back and they keep getting reoccurring injuries because he's rushing them back. That's a manager issue. Every other coach, every other manager in England would be criticized for that. So now that is where I agree with you. Where is Hamza? I don't know where Hamza is. He's obviously got the invite link. I don't know if he's coming on or not, though. Onana is key to Aston Villa too. Yeah, Onana, very good performance as well today. You're right. City got rogered. They did get rogered today. And if you don't understand English slang, that basically means fucked. So got a rogering today. Cheers, City. Keep the blue flag flying high is what the fouled wizard said. You're finished. You're finished. Wallahi, you're finished. Did I say that right, Mo? Mo's backstage. Did I say wallahi? I said it right. Hey, there we go. It's like not when I try and say like El Aqua. I can't say it still. Yuri, you beauty. Yeah, Yuri Tillemans. What a performance from that man today. What a performance from that man today. Out of this world. Something is happening in the background. The players look like they have given up. They don't have the same fire and energy. Listen, that's very true. Tony, what that could just be, Occam's razor, okay? I'm just making a note of this super chat. They may have just given up this season. Genuinely. Often, Occam's razor basically says that the simple, most easy to understand answer is normally the truth, okay? And from my perspective, yes, people talk about 115 or 130 now. They speak about all of those other things outside of that. And for me, I think the players have lost a few games, have lost a little bit of belief, but there's a bloated feeling of, but we've won loads already, and they've kind of tapped out. But unlike a UFC fight where you can, do you know what? I've lost this one. I'm not going to go on. I'm not going to sit here and get beaten for another 3 minutes. I'm going to tap out now because there's no way I can win. I'm going to regroup and then come back stronger. You can't kind of do that in league football because you've still got another 20 odd games to play. I think that's what it is. The only other thing I've heard that holds water is maybe some of the behavior from Pep is taking away belief from these players. You know, talking about his digestive issues, having the shits, not sleeping, can only eat soup now, scratching his head, scratching his ball. All that stuff may play a part. But I think that feeds into players giving up. But I don't think it's... when you say something's going on in the background, what else do you think it could be, Tony? City's midfield is weak. Simple solution, add strength. Listen, a lot of them were getting happy about Zubimendi, but Sam Lee this morning has stated, sources close to City state that neither Bruno Guimaraes or Zubimendi will happen in January. So that's going to be interesting if Sam Lee is correct on that. Grealish is one of the worst footballers to step a foot into the Premier League. Now, he's not a bad football player. He's been bad at City, but he's not a bad footballer. 100 million quid is over. What a joke. Football is finished. We need to talk about Pep. No fence sitting. It's sackable, period. Well, we'll put that to the panel. We're going to save that super chat of yours for the panel, bro. Durán is the type of striker that United need. Bro, I didn't even want to say that, but it's true. I was watching him today thinking he's hold-up play, man. That hold-up play, I need it. I need it, Andre. Terry, City have lost everything that has made them special. The players no longer listening to Pep is something has to give. Where you're right, Alberto, is if the players have stop listening to Pep, he has to go. Again, doesn't damage his legacy, but if they've stopped listening, finitoed. Finito, in my opinion, especially as they need to rebuild the squad. But there we go. Also depends who isn't listening to him and whether they're leaving or not, but you're generally right. Terry, if anyone else lost 12, they didn't lose 12, they've lost 9 of 12, but yes, hands down, you're putting the sack question mark to any other manager. Nav, but no other manager is Pep. There is a fundamental difference. There is a fundamental difference here. However, you heard what I said, Nav. I'm looking at these next 4 games before I have that conversation. A lot of the matches they've had in this bad run have been against good to very good teams. Doesn't defend Pep. I think he's been awful. I think he's been a failure in this period because he hasn't found a solution. Keeps moaning about injured players. All the things I've mentioned about his IBS, he's touching his balls, scratching his head. I've criticized it all. Do I think he should be sacked? Right now, my answer is no. Do I think it's an unfair conversation? No. I just think it's a bit premature. That's what I've said. What's your evidence Pep can turn this around? It's a really good question. And I'll answer it completely and utterly honesty. It's a gut feeling. I think Pep can turn it around. I think he can. If my gut's wrong, my gut's wrong. I think he can turn it around if he wants it. Like I've said, though, if it turns out he's lost his desire, then I don't think he can. We will see, my friend. We will see. Great question, though. Pep has still not found a way to get Haaland involved in general play because I don't think you can coach that into Haaland. It's not what he is. It's not what he is. It's not what Pep bought him for. What Pep's got wrong is between him and the club have bought the wrong players to feed him. And you've had 2 or 3 that were great at feeding him that have fallen off. And suddenly, there's nothing there anymore. Eric Pep Haag, Sam Allardyce in is what Tommy says here. I like it. Would Pep stay if there was no Champions League football next year? Top 4? No, listen, maybe not. I think there's if the form doesn't improve dramatically this season, if they're out of the champion. Well, by the way, they're sitting out of the Champions League place right now, right? There's no Champions League. The form doesn't turn around. If his IBS continues, I think Pep might go. I think Pep might walk away. He could. By Christmas, City could end up 9th. I mean, they could. That would mean Man United have to lose this weekend, though, and I don't want that. But yes, they could. They could. Pep quit his previous clubs when it got dicey. Listen, that is a fair bit. That's different from being sacked, but that's a fair challenge there, people. It really, really is. By the way, we're 4 super chats away from gifting out, those eSIMs. So keep them coming in, please. If Pep can turn 1 win in 12 around, why can't Teta turn the draws around? LB Potts talk about firing Arteta if he doesn't win, but Pep has a relegation form. So again, listen, let me make sure I word this in the right way. I haven't said that Arteta can't turn it around. Why I'm saying that you have to look at sacking Arteta if you don't get over the line, it's about having a conversation around you're very close to winning. You've won the FA Cup year 1, but if you go up to the end of 5.5 years, it will be him at the club without picking up another trophy. It's a conversation not about he's a crap manager, he's lost it, sack him. It's a case of, can you find somebody better, whether it's marginal or not, to come in and take you over that line? The Pep conversation for me is very different. It's one of the greatest managers of all time who's won everything. Has he lost that dressing room? So if I was saying, I think Arteta's got to go because he's lost the dressing room, but then saying, I think Pep might have lost the dressing room, but he shouldn't go, then you can call out the hypocrisy. But both scenarios are distinctly different. Therefore, my view is not the same. I hope that makes sense, Robert. Thank you. Klopp is looking more and more like a genius. You have to leave them wanting more. I get you. Listen, there's a fair point in there. I'm not going to argue it. If this doesn't improve and then Pep leaves this summer, look, City fans are always going to love him. You've got to understand that differently to Liverpool, City have never had a great team until this one. They've had league title winners, FA Cup winners, they've had good teams. They never had a great side. I think the feeling will be a little different, but I hear you. Thank you, Whitney. This here says, ironic, the season when Jurgen Klopp leaves, Pep falls apart, and Liverpool gets a 12:30 kickoff postponed due to bad weather. That's a really good super chat. I like that. All right, it's time for my panel now. We've got City fan Kel. We've got Man Like V. We've got my brother Judge Mo joining us as well. Welcome, everybody, to the show. I'm going to go to Mo first from a neutral perspective here. 1 win in 12. Another Premier League defeat for Manchester City. Mo, what's your thoughts on today's game?
All I can think of when I'm watching today's game is that, again, when the system doesn't work, these players are so exposed. Pep Guardiola got it wrong again, not only in the lineup, but in the setup. He kept going to Jack Grealish while he has Phil Foden and Bernardo Silva on the right side a little bit, or Phil Foden central. Pep Guardiola got it right because Phil Foden was away from Jack Grealish, who was isolated with Matty Cash. And Jack Grealish didn't do as bad as people say, but also he was not effective. Like, he was just an average footballer on the pitch. And I just want to say a couple of things for the people that say injuries are not injuries. Today, they had Diaz injured, right? And they had Rodri injured. They had Kovacic back. It's someone they bought by choice. I don't know why Matthias Nunes didn't play. That lineup should not have put that bad of a performance, by the way. No one has to tell me that this lineup should put that. Kovacic provides the legs in the midfield. Gundogan provides the brain. To be honest with you, if I'm looking, and what is John Stones, world-class defender, where everyone is telling me this guy's, he was hooked at halftime. He was so bad.
He got injured.
He's bad. I don't care if he looked horrific in the first half, out of position, terrible. To be honest with you, like, if you look at this Man City, you would never have thought this team is coming from a 4-peat. But some of these players are absolutely not playing up to the level, not playing up to the performance. And I just want to say something that one of the super chats said about Erling Haaland. Pep Guardiola has ruined Erling Haaland. And I'm going to repeat this again. Pep Guardiola has ruined his game. And it might be, this Erling Haaland guy might have ruined, yes, he went and scored 30-something goals when things are going well. Again, when things are not going well, he had 0 touches in the opposition's box. He tried to dribble once, right? And by the way, he didn't look bad when he tried to dribble from halfway line, like what he used to do at Dortmund. But Pep Guardiola doesn't allow him to do this. Surprise, surprise. Don't come deep and try to get involved because you're not good enough. No, he's good enough. He was doing it at Salzburg and Dortmund. He was involved with Jadon Sancho. We all remember. With Jude, him, Jadon Sancho, they used to play good football. But he limited the guy like he did with Jack Grealish. And when the whole system is not working, the players look exposed. That is what happened today. And don't tell me that Tielemans and Onana and Kamara and Morgan are suddenly better than everyone. No, they aren't. It's the system that doesn't work and the players get exposed. Bernardo Silva, out of place. Gundogan can't run. He's putting him in these places, Pep Guardiola. No sacking or anything because he has credit in the bank, because he has games to win in the next 4 games. But people have to realize that Pep Guardiola is not, when the system is not working, he's so suspect. He's so suspect. He couldn't change anything. His system is the best in the history when it works. But when it doesn't work, and now when teams don't have any fear, from minute 1, Aston Villa had no fear.
I want to ask you this question, Mo. You mentioned like John Stones, you mentioned Haaland, you mentioned a few players. Are they being exposed? Because there's a distinction here, I think. Are they being exposed as being not bad players, but less
not world class? Not world class.
Yeah. Are they being exposed as being not as good as we thought because the system isn't working? Or are we seeing players that are lacking confidence because of recent results who are mentally fragile, therefore they can't reach their world-class levels?
Maybe that, but I never thought that some of these players are world-class. I always said that Pep, you never can judge a player under Pep until they leave Pep or the system doesn't work. I said that years ago. Since I first started going on the terrace in 2021, I said that. Pep Guardiola is the genius. And when his system doesn't work, the players show their actual level. John Stones was never an amazing defender. Bernardo Silva, he hides his flaws. Jack Grealish, he did hide his flaws in the triple season. The only thing that happened is that he took Erling Haaland back. Phil Foden today didn't do bad, but he literally made him non-existent in the first half. It's Pep Guardiola bypass. Phil Foden just surrendered because he was always patted on the back.
Terry, Mo's bringing up a point that's actually illustrating Pep's brilliance. I mean, what he's been able to do with these players, like Mo says himself, he watches a lot of football, and they haven't really been at that level. It's been Pep that's gotten out of them. It's been Pep that's taken these guys to this level. And when he wants to talk about system, I got to disagree somewhat, because the system works when you have all the available bodies. And Mo's going to look at the squad, or rivals are going to look at the squad and who played today. Listen, Kova came to City not to be a starter. Gundogan came back to City not to be a starter. And when you look at what we had available in the midfield, we would have had James McAtee and KDB to come on, or to even start. And that's not enough. That's not enough. Even as much as you guys want to say Aston Villa don't match the quality of City, listen, Aston Villa, they're playing in Champions League. Unai Emery has had these guys very well organized, and look at the brilliance. Look at the form that they're in, right? With regards to Durán. Now, overall, we're in poor form, they're in poor form, but this is horrific form from City. And when I was considered, or when I was labeled a gaslighter with regards to saying teams can get at us, I've said it for a while. I've seen Spurs do it for several seasons. When I say it about others, you guys want to tell me, oh, I just want them to open up and make it easy for us to score. No, we've been able to get at for a while. Now, the belief in terms of other teams, copycat league, seeing that they can do it, yeah, it's widespread now. Every club in the league sees that they can run at us. And every time we lost possession, it wasn't just the midfield. Cash was running down full tilt. Every player on Aston Villa, we're trying to get at us because we don't have the legs right now. We don't have the ability to keep pace. Pep's going to have to do a lot with regards to...
Can I interject here with something? Sorry, Vader, sorry. Yeah, Rodri was never quick. Rodri was never fast.
Okay.
Rodri physically is good, but he's not a monster like an Onana. He's not a monster.
I hear you. But
it is down to Pep to position the players where they should be to intercept. Go ahead. But because you mentioned pace and strength, Rodri was never quick.
No, Rodri was never quick. But when you have Kova and Gundo in that midfield, it's going to be exposed.
And Rico.
Yeah, well, Rico's moving from a defensive position to come in inverted. But I'm just saying midfield-wise, Rodri was never quick, but Rodri is also the one to read the game properly. And physically, you're not moving him off the ball. The way unfortunately, many times I saw Kova and Gundo get bullied a little bit. Get bullied off the ball.
Every game.
You could not do that to Rodri.
You are right today, V. I think speed's one thing, but when I look at what Tielemans and Rodgers were doing to Kovacic and Gundogan today, it was like men versus boys when it comes to strength, I felt, in the midfield today, V.
Yeah, I mean, they would see for him to get, or either player to get possession, they'd get tight, and they'd put a shoulder on him, they put a little elbow on them and dispossess. You would not do that to Rodri. And he was a release valve for us often. He was a safety blanket, but it speaks to the quality of our Ballon d'Or player who's out for the season. This game was going to be a fight from the very beginning. My heart was telling me, let's go out of here with a 2-1. I predicted the right score before the wrong team. And honestly, the way they looked to pounce on us every time they had the ball, that's going to be the formula against us. Until things change with regards to maybe how Pep organizes, or the choice of players in the midfield, or even how he, like Mo wants to mention, how he decides to space players out. We'll have to see. But the change is not going to be easy. And at the same time, I like watching these type of games. I like seeing my club fight and see who's going to remain here and who's not. Now, I disagree with some of those that were speaking about, oh, Pep can't figure this out. If the players aren't listening to him, then Pep's got to go. I completely disagree. If there's any player that's not listening to this manager now, they're the ones out the door. They're the ones that are going to leave. If you're not able to fight through this, if you're going to hang your head down in shame and you're not going to continue to try to find solutions, I want you out of here. I want these quitters out of here. If there happens to be any players like that, Pep's going to find.
Can I play devil's advocate here?
Absolutely, you're a red devil.
I agree. If the manager's doing the right things and the players don't want to work for him, the player should go. What if the players are losing heart because the manager's behavior or approach is wrong?
If the manager's behavior is wrong?
So if the managers, for instance, say the players are losing faith in him because he's talking in press conferences about shitting his pants because he's got IBS. What if the players are getting frustrated because he keeps playing Walker and they know Walker's going to be exposed because I'm pointing out a lot of City fans have said Pep keeps rushing players back and they keep picking up reoccurring injuries. What if those things are true, not just fan theories? I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm not saying it's all true. Say those things that City fans are complaining about. The City players are saying it's hard to keep following him because he's making so many mistakes. Then would you still back getting rid of the players and keeping the manager?
I mean, that's a very unique and specific situation. I would leave it to the board to make that decision. I wouldn't players complaining about how my manager's acting, what my manager's doing. No, the board. Khaldoon will have to decide that. The players, again, there's a line of there's a hierarchy, right? If we're talking generals, if there's anyone that's the soldiers need to listen to Pep. If the soldiers aren't listening to Pep, they're out the door. Now, if the general is telling Pep, hey, you got to settle down, you got to figure this out, and he doesn't agree with what Pep's doing, then Pep's got to go. But I think that is a very extreme example. I need to see the players that are playing for the badge. And what I also liked with regards to, hey, is there any quit? Let's kind of stop with this quit with regards to Haaland. Or Haaland needs to maybe rethink his legacy or his time here. I don't think it's Pep that's telling these players not to release a pass when he's making a run, because I see them not releasing a pass for Haaland, for Foden, sometimes out on the wing for a Bernardo or a Gundo. They're not doing it. And I've said this, I've talked to other City fans. You know when Haaland went for his madness in Champions League and Pep subbed him off because he didn't want him to break Messi's record? That wasn't a matter of, intricate, where you're passing through and he was getting goals. Take a shot.
I think he should leave City, bro.
Haaland being in the right position, reactionary. I want us to cause some type of chaos.
I think he should leave. Vader, I think he should leave. But
you think who should leave?
Yeah, I think he should leave.
You think who should? I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Who'd you say?
Erling Haaland. I think he should leave Manchester City, go to Barcelona or something. I'm being serious.
Go to Barcelona.
He won everything. He won everything with you. He broke the record. The record will not be broken. I think in my lifetime, I won't see someone to come in and break that record again. He won the treble. He won everything. Pep has limited the guy. He's destroying his ability, bro.
No.
You aren't passing him the ball. Zero time. Vator, you watch how Hamza will tell you. Hamza knows. Hamza will tell you. Hamza used to tell us that Erling Haaland at Dortmund used to dribble, used to shoot from outside the 18. He used to do that. He limited his game. Why you guys are not talking about this?
Mo, they don't defend like that in the Prem.
Habibi, today Aston Villa were 20 yards outside of the 18. 20 yards. He didn't play a low block. You can't tell me they played a low block today. There was spaces for him to run behind. There was spaces for him to get the ball.
Our players need to release
Don't
the pass.
Tell me it's players. It's instructions. These were definitely instructions today, guys. Every time the ball was played diagonal, Jack Grealish was slow and he was trying to go to the line to cross the ball. You guys were watching this. The majority, Vator. Okay, 90% of the time, Vator. The majority of the time, Erling Haaland makes the run and the players look to play the diagonal ball, Vator. Talk about the tactics of the game. They were trying to cross the ball to Haaland instead of playing him and making him turn. Because he did turn in the second half twice, a halfway line. Right. Didn't he? He can do it. Pep is asking them not to do that.
No, that's not true. You know why? Because when KDB's on that pitch, we see those passes released. It's the confidence in the players. They're gun shy for whatever reason. They're not
good enough.
They're not good enough. I want to say they're not good enough. But I'm disagreeing with Mo when he talks about his tactics. Because when we see KDB, it's a completely different release of the pass, a different confidence with regards to a player. The other players don't do it. So that's why I'm challenging Mo to say,
shut down the club.
Tactics.
If KDB's not there, shut down the club. If KDB's not there,
no, you're
shut it down.
You're trying to say that it's a tactic thing. I'm telling you it's not, because a player like KDB will take the chance. Certain players aren't taking the chance ball to foot. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, I agree with V's coming. I agree with V's coming from it. Sorry, Kevin. I'll come to you in a second. Before I move to Kel, I just want to ask you one last question, V, about something you said on about the 35th minute of the show. You said that Pep has made these players great, implying that they're maybe not great players, but Pep has made them great. And I'm asking for that because when it comes to some of your players and conversations about best centre-backs in Prem history, best strikers, best midfielders, if you're stating that they're not that good, but the system makes them better, is that not taken away from their legacy? And the second part of the question I have for you is, you also then said that without the right players, Pep's system collapses. Is that not a problem again for Pep's legacy conversations when you say that he can only make his system work with the right type of player? And if one or two are missing, Pep's system ends up with one win in 12 games. Is that what you're saying? Or could you, someone could interpret it that way. So could you expand on them for me, please?
Yeah, of course. So first I was addressing Mo, as Mo was speaking about the quality of players and what Pep's been able to do. So in a way, I think it was more propping up Pep's madness and what he's been able to do over the years, and also raising the level across the board of the players. Obviously, we have some world-class players. Across the board, we have a few. We've had some that have been able to do their thing, but overall, no one overly rated Akanji. No one really said Ake was going to be that guy, but Pep was able to get them at a high level, especially in our treble season. When you look at a player players, when I talk about available players or players being available, we played this game without a Ruben Diaz, and he's a difference maker for us. We had to play an incomplete game with a John Stones, and no, John Stones may not be world class, but he had a purple patch world class season with regards to our treble and the inverted instructions that he gave them. I'm just trying to point out, we don't have world class players in every position, but when Pep is able to get the best out of these players, it looks like that. And it looked like that for a very consistent run.
And I understand that. I understand that. What I would say about what you just said there about Ruben Diaz, though, Ruben Diaz played against Man United, and you had the same problems in that game. And so one thing I would say to a lot of City fans is, barring Rodri, who's obviously been missing this whole majority of this season, I remember. When Diaz is back, we'll be okay. Diaz comes back, and then you're still not winning those games, and then he goes. I don't think it's about one player. I think it's a much wider issue. Kel, just over to you. What was your thoughts on today? Obviously, a match that you kind of need to win every single game now, but it's a game that could see you drop as low as 9th in the table by the end of this weekend.
Well, that was a rough one for me. I had to wake up at 4:30 in the morning to watch that BS. Yes. I just don't see anybody trying right now. I can't think of one player in that game who really stepped up and showed me effort. Show me a great tackle, show me a great clearance, show me a foul that shows you mean business. Just show me a great pass that breaks the lines. Something. I didn't see that from anybody. I thought everybody looked like a passenger today, and that's kind of been the theme of this run. It's just too many passengers. There's nobody willing to grab the game by the scruff of the neck. This is the kind of game last year that Phil Foden would have done that too. And yes, that was lovely for him to score at the very end. But otherwise, I don't think he made an impact in the game whatsoever. And I don't see anybody I just need more effort. I can handle losing. That's fine. But
can I ask you a question, Kel, on that? What do you think is leading to that? I mean, the commentators here were alluding to something similar, that they just look half a yard off the pace. They're not going like Matty Cash today. He probably could have got booked a little bit earlier. But what he was doing to Jack Grealish was a demonstration of fight and determination. I mean, could it just maybe you need some of your players to be a little bit nastier, show they care, run through a brick wall? What do you think's stopping them from doing that?
I just think they're a bunch of squad players for the most part. I mean, if you're thinking of our ideal 11, how many of those players are you actually starting? Not very many. Probably Haaland. You'll start Yashko. You'll start Kanji.
Well, then who's your wingers?
I don't know if you're going to start any of those people.
But who are your wingers then? Just if you're saying then, who are your starting wingers then that are fully fit?
I guess you could put maybe in our best 11 it's Savio. I don't even know. Our wingers are kind of a disaster right now. Jack's not performing. Doku's very inconsistent. But Bernardo looks completely shot. I haven't seen Bernardo's been a gripe of mine for a long time. I literally don't remember the last time he had a good game this season or last season. I'd have to go all the way back to that Real Madrid game.
Just going back to V's point, so sorry just to ask a question for these guys, but when you guys say these players aren't scruffing the neck and grabbing the game just to understand, hey, I'm here, Haaland, when he was at Dortmund and Salzburg, would be able to drop back. Why is he not taking the initiative? Is this like a Pep? Is this Pep just telling him wait there for a cross to come in that's not accurate from Grealish or Savinho or Doku because they can't cross?
Well, I think Pep is telling Haaland, listen, your quality is in the 18-yard box. I don't want you at the halfway mark. I don't want you dropping back. We have enough quality, or we'll have possession to get the ball to you. You're not best used there. I think that's what he's telling him.
Understood. But then just the right at the start of the second half, that Grealish cross to Guardiola that nearly missed.
Yeah.
Why is Haaland letting him make that run, and why is Guardiola making that run instead of Haaland when he was on the top of the 18 and not making that run for that ball? Why did he not see Grealish cut back on top of the 18 to cut it back, and why would he not make a run?
Yeah, but if you look at that play, both of them would have had the chance. It would have depended on where Grealish put that cross, because Haaland was actually in position to make a header himself. I think again. Now I hear what you're saying.
It's to see it from a rival. Obviously, I can see how you guys think of the system, but right now, I am very understanding how what Pep is doing is he's going into a system now with his injuries and what's going on with not having a Rodri of what his job is to start the attack and make that smart foul to then start the defense if he needs to, right?
Mm-hmm.
What he's lacking is an actual out and out DM. Yeah. But you can clearly see when he doesn't see the system, he goes in with one way and he says, if it's not going to work, we're going to try and try again. And it hasn't worked in 13 games. Maybe try at least go on a counter. You have speed and you guys aren't playing on counters at all. It's just like as you can see, rivals, we're not just here to bash you. We're Pep.
No.
In my life, like I grew up during Sir Alex. It's just the issue is it's hard to see this greatest manager of my era to do this because it's just wow, like you're not having any other ideas. It's just
I see.
I'm going to try and play possession, but he can't do it.
I get really frustrated when I hear some say that Pep's out of ideas because, and again, I don't geek out. I don't nerd out with regards to going to the stats, see how many different starting 11s Pep's done or how many changes, but I'm sure the number's ridiculously high. He's not fielding the same 11. He's not actually giving them the same formations often. Now, if you want to say we see the same thing with regards to how we hold possession, yeah, philosophy, that's the philosophy over at Pep and City. We hold possession, and that's pretty much maybe we're a little too slow with what we do in attack. But what he's tried to do with different players, different instructions, he's clearly trying to find a solution without the players that have been in, out at times. And it's frustrating as a City fan, or even maybe some of you rivals that have said, like, this is the guy. What's happening over here? I've also looked at some games where I'm like, you know what, Pep, that wasn't on you. I had some player mistakes that have me yelling and losing my voice. So some games haven't all been Pep.
That was mistakes.
Yeah, big up everyone and Terry and the chat. I hope you're all well. For me, I think we are overlooking a few things. First of all, one thing all the greatest managers have always tell us consistently is it is the players. They always tell us we couldn't have done it without great players. If you talk to Sir Alex, if you talk to Wenger, Pep, Mourinho, they always tell us the players. So what has happened at City? City used to have the best squads and buy the best players. And when you have the best players, the rest, their level will become higher. So if you have a Paul Scholes, for example, and a Roy Keane, a Darren Fletcher can play at a higher level. If you have like a Patrick Vieira and you have a Robert Pires and Henry, someone like a Gilberto can play at a higher level. Cities, world class and superstars, two things have happened to them. One, they've been overused. So football players now play too many games. And year in, year out, the likes of your Bernardos, your Kevin De Bruyne, your Rodri, they have played too many games. So what has happened is that physically, they are not there anymore. And in the Prem, it doesn't matter how much technique you have. If you do not have the physicality, you will get overrun. And we've seen so many examples of technically good players who doesn't have the physicality come to the Prem and struggle. So it's key.
I understand where you're coming from. What I would say is this, though: City. What I won't ever do for Man City, same as anyone else in the top 6, is care about them moaning about too many games. City and Chelsea have just entered themselves into another tournament at the end of this season, which means they're not going to have a pre-season, and they've done it. It's not the players' fault, but they've done it for the 60 million pounds they're being paid to do it. And for me, hang on, let me finish my point.
Oh yeah,
and I understand where you're coming from. That there's been a drop-off in quality in players in this Man City squad. I don't think any self-respecting City fan is going to sit there and not admit that the majority of the 500-600 million pounds they've spent in the last 3 to 4 windows has been spent on absolute average players. Jack Grealish, Núñez, Kovacic, Doku. There's tens, there's hundreds. Phillips, hundreds of millions of pounds has been spent in that period, and the vast majority of those signings are nowhere near top class levels. Where I agree with you, King, is when they were playing with peak KDB. When these guys were in their pomp, obviously Rodri in the team, when Mahrez was here and other players, they were being carried slightly by the system and by those top quality players. A number of those players have left. A few of the others have fallen off physically and got injuries. Now what you're seeing is, and listen, and all great teams, all clubs have made this mistake where you invest money into players who are just not as good as you think they are. And one thing sometimes you can't test is how good players are in adversity. And this is something we're now seeing from a lot of these City players, is this, like, for instance, like a Núñez, okay, like a Kovacic, like the likes of Grealish and the Dokus. You guys need to deliver now, because the players that used to deliver are out or injured. What can you guys step up to that mantle and be those players for City? And they're not able to, because right now, and some of them might get better in time. I'm not writing their careers off, but at this particular juncture, they haven't. And City need to spend big, and they need to start spending in 9 days' time, because that's the only way they're going to turn this season around. And they do. They've got to start spending. And I'm not someone who's going to bemoan them doing that, because every club has. A lot of people always go, "Oh, you know, Arteta spent 790 million euros since he's been the manager." You know, City have spent 720 million in that same time period on top of a squad that was already winning league titles. Everybody has to spend money, and City have just got to go through that. What they've got to hope for, though, is that this time round, the people they buy are good enough. And I think the Pep situations there also. We've got a lot of super chat to jump into. Hamza, I just wanted to get your take on today's game, my friend. Fundamentally manhandled, really, by a better Aston Villa team today.
Absolutely, 100%. Disgrace performance, 100%. It's a joke. It's a joke completely. That's not the standards of Manchester City. Like, to fall down like this, it's a disgrace. Like, disgrace completely. Morgan Rogers was playing, like I said, like Zinedine Zidane. When I saw Zinedine Zidane played for Brazil versus France. Yeah? Like, that was the performance he had. That's an ex-Man City academy. He was just balling out. Not even... And you could see, he was just... The players were taking it easy. Durán, outstanding. Tielemans, brilliant. Guy who was getting relegated with the Leicester City. It tells you many things about the football club now at the moment. Low in confidence, 100% when you keep losing. But it doesn't, you don't see a club like Man City. You don't see it. You don't see it because people know. People often, even people cannot count Man City at the title race now. People know.
Yeah, you're out of the title race, Hamza.
I'm still. I'm saying people will still.
Bro,
some people are scared to count them out.
No one is scared of
Hamza, do you think you're at the title race, Hamza?
No, until I see the title race being lifted, I'm not going to consider myself out of the title race, because I've seen it before. I've come from like 8 points lead with 3 or 4 games with Fergie, and I won it. So I have confidence I can still win it. So to me, I think
I'm going to tell you this, Hamza.
No, I still believe 100%. I'm not being arrogant. I still believe.
If Man City wins the title, I'll give you £100.
Okay.
No, if Man City win the title from here, I will pay for your full hair transplant. I'll pay for the whole thing.
But it hasn't stuck before. I've tried it twice. I'm joking. I'm joking. I've never done hair transplant.
Hamza, do you know who you guys really need to put your focus on? It's your recruitment. The players that you've let go.
Absolutely.
Like
That's
your Morgan
what I've been
Rogers,
saying.
your Cole Palmers. Like you
No,
look at
no,
the
no,
quality
forget that.
of some of the players.
Guys, I don't want to go off track of the game for a moment with Hamza. So on the game, Hamza, you mentioned sort of they worked hard, they performed to a level. What players weren't putting in good enough performances today from a Man City point of view? Who let you down, in your opinion?
I'll call, my favorite player has been Vardio. He was poor today. I'll tell you one thing.
Everyone was poor today.
Yeah. Vardio has been making mistakes, yeah. And I'll tell you why I say he's poor. You know, within 30 seconds, they could have scored. That's not how you start. Be honest, Terry. That's not how you start.
Well, I agree.
You don't start like passing back a stupid pass. And John Durán could have finished that chance. They could have been 2 or 3-0 up within like 3 or 4 minutes. 3-4-0 up. Yeah, well, we're lucky 100%. So I look at player like even when Morgan Rogers got the ball several times, I saw Vardy try to backheel it. But the thing is, Vardy is one of my favorite players. I'm looking at what's happened to this guy. Why are my players so? John Stones are injured now. The problem, it comes down to one thing: you can't drop certain players when you have a little squad. Yeah, so it's gonna cost you. So he doesn't have any option. Pep doesn't have options. Let me tell you.
But that's on him.
Anyone, your tacticals, any tacticals listens to me. There is no options. I told everyone in December, there's no options. Options is January. That's the only option. Now is to pray we don't lose against Everton, we don't lose against Leicester, and then January.
So are you also saying then the likes of Simpson, Puzzi, O'Reilly, McAtee, that are you saying that are you saying they're not good enough for Manchester City?
You can't.
We don't
play
know
them at this moment. It will destroy their confidence. I think it's dangerous to play these players when the senior players are not showing confidence. Captain Kyle Walker is not showing confidence. So imagine
Kyle Walker's been lost for 2
can a
years
youngster
right now.
say he's looking at every senior player, they're down, and he comes there. He knows Pussy was played against Sporting, and City fans blamed him for a mistake. And you don't want to destroy them.
Every time Walker plays, a goal comes because of him. Yeah. He did absolutely nothing on that Rodgers goal. I would rather him kick Rodgers and give up a penalty than to just watch Rodgers go by him.
A lot of what I've heard from yourself, Hamza, and Kel today is players fighting and players giving their all. What's typically true with academy players at all clubs is there's a different type of fight in them because of their affinity to the club that essentially nurtured them. The thing is with O'Reilly and McAtee and players like this, they're going to have legs. They're going to have youthful exuberance. They're going to have energy. This is what I understand that Simpson Puzzi has made a mistake, right? And that's because the way you guys defend is you leave your defenders one-on-one exposed because of the way you push forward and attack, right? That's just the nature of the beast. I get that. But when it comes to the midfield, Gundogan's legs are shots. Gundogan now, forget who he was and what he did. He now, in my opinion, is going to be no better or potentially worse than your young academy midfield players coming through simply because he can't run. And what's happened to your team in nearly every single one of these last 12 games is your midfield has been run through, physically run through by players, by the way, that often are not as technically good as Kovacic, not technically as good on the ball as Gundogan. So when you say there's no options, this is where I have to reject that notion. I don't think Pep has explored enough options in these 12 games to say we tried it. If, for instance, you started a few games where Riley and McAtee are getting real game time and nothing changed, then fair enough. If you took Kyle Walker out for at least 2 matches, put an academy right back in there, or kept things as instead today you had Akanji on the bench. Instead of bringing Kyle Walker on, okay, who's been horrendous, bring Akanji on, do something, not Akanji, bring Ake on, do something different. But I do not think Pep has explored enough options.
But I'll give you a game that he did.
There are no options.
I'll tell you the game he scored and he did work. Feyenoord.
Sorry.
3-0 up. Who did he bring on?
McAtee and Puzzi.
McAtee. And I told and Feyenoord was third in Eredivisie, and they did a remontada. If they had 15 minutes, they turned us around.
Okay,
I want to ask you something. Terry.
I'll come to you in a second, Kings. It's a really, hang on a minute. So again, if you want to write your youngsters off this early, then fair enough, you can write them off. And I know he brought those players on, but I don't believe your collapse came because you brought young players onto the football pitch. And I'll tell you as to why. Because what you guys have been praised for under Pep for the last 7 or 8 years is that when you bring an academy player on, they just fit straight into this system that's well drilled and nothing looks any different. You guys collapsed because you became complacent as a team, including your senior players. And in fact, in that moment, I actually understand why Pep did what he did. But when you think about the circumstance, it was probably better to keep your players on and see out that result. But I'm talking about games against Brighton's, games against Manchester United's, games against teams that Tottenham, I know they have a good record against you at home. You could have given, not all of them at the same time, I'm saying here. You could have gone, do you know what? We need some extra legs in the midfield today. O'Reilly's going in or a McAtee's going in to give you something extra. I'm not saying play a team full of children.
Played against Brighton.
Okay,
Well, the main thing, though,
I've already mentioned against, I've already said, I understand the criticism when it comes to defenders because your defenders are made to do a lot of one-on-one defending. You don't really defend as a unit because of how high up you push. But the point I'm saying is this. I agree that the injury problems have limited your options. But to state, hand on heart, that Pep's tried everything possible in the last 12 games and there's nothing left to try, I think is disingenuous. Kings, you were going to ask me a question. Sorry.
Yeah, but I think, again, we have to blame Pep for this because at the end of the day, he was the one who was okay to let go of Alvarez. He was okay to let go of Palmer. He didn't give Lavia chance. He didn't give Morgan Rogers chance, Harvard Bellis. And we can see that all of these players, we can't say that all of them just wanted to leave. There was a reason why they wanted to leave because they weren't given a fair chance to show their talent. And we see now, again, City are struggling. The senior players are not turning up. They keep on losing. But the young players are not given like a game of 5 games to prove themselves. You can't use 1 or 2 games and be like, okay,
so every time
you didn't perform in 1 or 2 games, then you're not good enough.
So every time a player's let go and there's a poor result, we're gonna look back and be like, oh, these players should have been kept.
1 point in a row without them.
No, I don't think it's about. Look, I don't think that's what
I'm saying is that
I don't think that's not what King. So answer it, King. It was your question, but that's not what you're saying.
What I'm saying is that you had these players in your squad, and none of them are kept. Whilst players like a Kevin Phillips, like a Mateus Nunes are coming in, and I'm not seeing anything that these players that you bought are better than the players that left.
That's a fine criticism, but at the time, these time machine conversations. No, hold on. These time machine conversations are incredibly difficult to really judge. Like you look like a genius when you say, "Oh, look at what this player turned out to be. Why didn't you keep him 2-3 seasons ago?" Well, 2-3 seasons ago, they weren't touching the pitch because of the quality of the squad that we had.
Can I say though, V, where I would challenge you on that? Sorry, Kings. One sec. I just want to say, V, where I would challenge you on that. When you sign players as well, you're signing them for what you hope they're going to become in your team. Hindsight is 20/20, and it's very lucrative. And I've always said this, but all of us judge our clubs based on where we end up. You look and you go, what decisions led to us being here?
Who predicted it?
When you guys won the treble, you look back over the last 4 or 5 years and went, wow, bringing in Tiki, bringing in Pep, signing this player 5 years ago and developing it. When you win something, you look back and go, you look at all the dots in a row that made you that team. So it's absolutely fair when your team is going through a bad patch and loads of new signings haven't been good and loads of players that have left your club are killing it in the Premier League to go, that was a mistake.
I tell you, who did you predict was going to win the league before the season started September? Who did you predict?
I didn't think you were going to fall off like this. No, but that's not the point.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
so no one here predicted.
But that's irrelevant. That is.
I'm coming back to the relevant of it.
But it isn't relevant. And I can stop you ahead of time. It isn't relevant. But nobody predicted you doing a treble. But we still look back on how you got there and praised it. No, it's the same logic, Hamza. Same logic. When you do well, we look back at your body of work and go, wow, this is how City became the greatest team on planet Earth. When you're in a bad patch, whether I predicted winning one game in 12 or not. I'm looking back and saying, wow, lots of players, and you've all sat here and said, this player's not good enough. They're not good enough. He's not good enough. The recruitment's been bad.
Yeah,
this was awful.
But this is why the time machine but Terry, this is why the time machine conversation is incredibly frustrating, and many panelists like to do it because it's an easy I gotcha.
Yeah,
but
easy.
We let those players go to win the treble. That can't then be had you kept them, you still win the treble. There's certain things you need to
you let Palmer go after the treble.
Yeah, and
no, but we're talking. But even talking about Lavia, you want to bring up even decisions with regards to.
Hang on a minute. So you had to sell Lavia to win the treble.
No, you're missing the point, Terry. It's
no, you said that point.
No, I meant the point in terms of the squad.
Hang on. Sorry. Explain how selling Lavia helped you win the treble.
Keeping certain players, because King brought up they didn't get a chance to play. We had to let players go to be able to get that performance of a treble season. So when he wants to bring up in hindsight, these players should have been.
But again, so I want to bring you back to the question. You haven't explained why selling Lavia enabled your team to win a Champions League and treble.
No, it's not about selling Lavia. It's about not having Savia get the playing time, which was the point that King brought up.
Oh,
okay. Let me say
he wasn't playing that season.
How many times? Let me see this. How many times, when you were incredible, have we seen Man City winning games in the first half? I'm not having this that Palmer or these players could not have come in at the 60th minute, at the 70th minute. One of them starting when you're playing relegation teams at home. Like, let's not protect like Cole Palmer before he was sold. Wasn't showing us that he was an exceptional talent. Like,
but we knew he's exceptional.
Guys, this is the great debate. We've got to get to the super chats. What I want to finish it off by saying is this: I understand that in the moment it looked right to sell certain players, but that isn't how we analyze things when you get to a when you win something or when you lose something. Equally, to the point where this all started, you have now got proper opportunities to give some of your academy players game time, as you've all stated you couldn't give to Lavia and co. But you're still not doing it. And for me, that for me is where I can't accept what Hamza said at the beginning of this conversation, that all avenues have been explored by your club and by your team.
Maybe the quality of the current academy players aren't what the Lavia and the Cole Palmers were.
Potentially. Then say that as opposed to...
No, but we don't know because we're not on the training pitch.
Well, you don't know because they haven't been given the chance. So all avenues haven't been explored.
Okay. We have...
there we go. This super chat here says, didn't Sir Alex win the league with a bunch of youngsters and not ready-made players? Neville, but yes, we were told that he couldn't. Yeah, we did, and that was laughed at in the first 2 weeks, where the very famous phrase was coined by Alan Hansen that you can't win anything with kids. Also, Sir Alex's final season of the Premier League, go back and read the articles that were being written that year, that this would be the worst constructed squad under Sir Alex to ever win the Premier League, and how the hell is it even there getting 85 points? So it's happened twice to Sir Alex where he's managed to get a team that's not quite complete to win the league. Hang on, we're not going to rewrite history. No, we're not going to rewrite history though.
Please, you cry me a river. You lie so much, like literally. Wow.
So hang on. So I lied that Alan Hansen said you won't win nothing with a young squad.
No, he said it. He said it in match of day. But that part about that, how bad you are, you had Tom Cleverley and Darren Fletcher, but you hide the fact that you had Michael Carrick, you had Robin Van Persie, you had Rio, you had Vidic, you had Evra. You had
hang on. So this is the thing. This is the thing that you're doing. This is. Hang on a minute. This is where Hamza, your brain goes into cognitive dissonance. I didn't say that I felt that.
No, these are the United fans.
No. Not United fans saying it. I said the media wrote articles about it. They did. Go read them. So again, don't take a media's headline and slag me off for it. I thought that United team was pretty good. Okay. However, I don't think it's as good as the squad you've got now, is a point to be made. But those articles were most certainly written. They're still on the internet now. They're there. So yeah, the super chat was correct. It's a lack of confidence for City, nothing more, is what Craig says here. It's a good point. Pep is never to blame with City fans. Remarkable is what Tipsy Dipsy says here. Foden versus Richarlison. Who you got? Definitely Foden. You're just readying into League Two form. If Jackson and Isak can't dribble past players, surely Haaland can too. He even used to bag long ranges for Dortmund. Pep is just limiting him. Mo is right.
I was jealous of Durán today. I was like, I want to see that out of Haaland, but Pep never lets him do that. Like this slow midfield buildup is not working. Why not try some counter with Haaland? Because he's really good at countering, as Mo was saying at Dortmund and Salzburg. I don't get why we don't try it.
A question to you, City fans. When City sold Alvarez, who was gonna help Haaland? Because he has to play every game now. Like what was the thought?
We didn't replace him.
Huh?
We didn't replace Alvarez.
That's a mistake.
Yeah.
That is a big mistake. They thought Oscar Bob and Foden and McAtee will be able to do that job. That's what Pep said in an interview. And I think Pep's he knows that's a mistake because you're right. Alvarez is a World Cup winner, 35 GA. He made Argentina win the World Cup. Lautaro got benched. He came on. Argentina went on to win the World Cup. You don't sell those players and you don't have a replacement. You're right. That has beaten us hard. Fact.
You're lying because you actually said that Alvarez should go. He's not good enough.
No, I never said
he's replaced.
Midway.
No, the point is he wasn't replaced.
Don't tell me River played. Hamza.
Alvarez wasn't replaced.
All of you guys are gonna. Everyone now is gonna defend Hamza.
No, we're not defending him, but the point is Alvarez wasn't replaced.
Hamza. Midway through the season, last season, when Alvarez was being played out wide, and he said that Pep is forcing Alvarez in the lineup. He literally said that.
Midway through the season last year, new information.
Alvarez was one of my favorite.
New information. Okay, so great. New information. Should you have kept Palmer? Wait, please. Should you have kept Palmer, guys? New information. He said new information.
That's exactly the point.
Everybody.
They use new information. This is Mo. This is where you got on there, Mo.
You should have kept everybody, Terry.
No. This is the thing. It's just have an honest conversation. This is the thing. When it comes to like defending your club, new information comes in. Yeah, we can use hindsight to now know we were right or wrong when it comes to defending your club. But when it comes to actually we made a mistake, suddenly hindsight and looking backwards is wrong. Come on, you can't have it both ways.
That's not the conversation. The conversation was the point that Hamza made midway through a season last year that Mo's trying to bring up.
I never said it. I don't know where he listened to that.
Yeah, I don't know where he's getting it from either, but he's trying to bring up a point about
I was jumping on Inter Milan Lautaro. I used to open on
Why
spaces.
does Lautaro have to do with this, bro? Why does Lautaro have to do with it? You're rattling,
guys, we're moving on with the super chats here. First one here says Facts Mo neutered these players, as in Pep neutered them. Guardiola is our second top goal scorer with 4, and it's Rodri's fault. Yeah,
big
of course.
Problem.
I love the fact now that more people are cottoning on to the fact that the attack of City, you could argue, is a bigger problem than their defense because they're just not scoring. There's so much of the ball, but they don't do anything with it. Like the friend zone football you're playing is crazy. All the effort and not scoring. Nothing.
I can't think of one good chance created today. Not one.
For me, I don't know if you City fans agree, but the best Man City team I've seen was when you had your Censorians and you had so many attacking options, and now you don't.
And what's the difference? We had numbers. That's why I come back to that.
That would never fly today either.
You are going to Hamza. So again, though, this is where I'm not calling you out individually. So I've seen City fans for the last 2 or 3 years praise the fact and big up Pep for loving his small squad. Are you now saying, with hindsight, Pep is wrong to ask for a small squad?
I've always said it. Terry, you know me. I'm the biggest anti-small squad.
So Pep's got that wrong then, in your opinion? 100%. Pep's made a big mistake there.
100%. Pep made a mistake of I'm trying to ascertain, and he knows about it. And I think because when you've got injured players, you haven't got solution to fix. Because you've got a small squad.
I get that. John Durán showed Haaland how to play football. My number 9. Yeah, D was very, very good today. He really, really was. Maybe the Pep allows KDB freedom, but doesn't trust the others to do it.
So, Terry, would you agree? I've heard Terry, I think, and I enjoy your content, Terry. I think you've made the point where why would Pep have a certain player do something and not another player do it on the wings? Would you think that Pep has midfielders do something in the midfield? And...
No, I agree with you on that. It's like I said, I don't
Thank you.
think that I don't think Pep has ruined Haaland in terms of telling him not to do things. I think what's happened, I think there's an element of truth to it, but I wouldn't put it on Pep. I think the way it's been for the past two years for Haaland, it's almost been. Imagine you don't need to learn to fish and how to tie your hook on and reel it because you literally can shoot fish in a barrel. Haaland's been able to shoot fish in a barrel for 2 years. And what he hasn't learned to do in the Premier League is drop deep and get involved in the play because it was almost easy because of how good you were. Now suddenly your team isn't creating those chances for him. I think he's looking a little bit lost. The only thing, so I don't think it's a case of the manager has said to him, "You don't drop deep, you don't do this." He just hasn't had to for 2 and a bit years. And now suddenly he hasn't developed that part of his game in the Premier League. And
to deal with the super chat, I don't think only KDB is given the freedom to pass to Haaland.
Yeah, it's why I don't defend Jack Grealish with this wank lie that the manager just tells he's the only winger in City's history under Pep. You sit on the wing and just make space for others. Fuck off.
Yeah, don't score goals, don't get assists.
It's always been a fucking lie, that one. It's like when Liverpool fans used to say, "Oh no, Pep tells Trent not to defend." It was always just a lie. It was just no. Trent didn't see the run, mate. Like Trent, he wasn't instructed to fucking miss it. We have to believe this amazing team was always dependent on one player. This is wild that without one player, this team wins 1 in 12. But it's not to do with just Rodri being out. This is a much deeper issue, my bro. And all real City fans know this. Pep is responsible when the system is working. We call these players world class. Now it's not. We call them out. Only players is what Dio Banter on the pitch has got to say here. Haaland's comment after Arsenal draw is to blame because after that it's been tits up. Yeah, he did upset the football gods. Maybe the football gods
after that.
Yeah. What's Pep's plan B? I get he's the best, etc., etc. Another excuse for a free pass for criticism. Fine, fair enough. What's Pep's plan B? What's his solution? Because plan A isn't working.
There doesn't seem to be a plan B. He's
doing
the same system with the same players.
No, he always had
that. He
always had plan B. He actually changed in the treble season, to win the treble from February. He actually changed the system. February. And that's why people want to say that Man City still can come back and win 20 games in a row. It just doesn't look like it with these players. It just doesn't look like
the last 8 games of the season to win the title. He changed it. He doesn't seem to be willing to change it right now.
I just think Pep at the current moment is not the leader that these players need and want. That is what people don't talk about. When you're so stressed on the sideline, your energy transmits to your players. So your players are as nervous as you on the sideline. That's just what a leader is. A leader on the sideline needs to lead his team and instead of falling into the trap of being as stressed as they are on the pitch. And he's doing that, scratching his head as players. Everyone's screaming, answering strange stuff in the media that affects the players. Because their friends are telling them, by the way, your manager is so stressed. We don't know what is going on at the club. And it happens.
It's so true. And listen, I'm a big advocate of Pep and always have been. I defend him on a lot of the nonsense people say. But his leadership, forget that he's a manager of a Man City Football Club. Any leader at any level of school, education, sport or business, behaving this way publicly during adversity is going to lose faith from some of these people. It's going to happen.
Possibly. I've seen the U.S. presidency have a different effect. We'll
Whoa.
What?
What?
Are you telling me that Joe Biden's behavior didn't have an impact on voters? Fuck off. Jesus Christ.
I'm talking about on the success of the U.S. But
this is literally why one of the reasons Trump won is that Joe Biden's attitude.
I was actually praising... Never mind. We'll talk.
I'm not shy of talking.
You don't want to. So you're praising Trump.
I'm saying they had Trump 4 years prior, right? And
he's just sick of Trudeau up in Canada.
And by the way, his attitude made him one of the presidents that only served 1 term before getting another one. It's simple.
I always think the behavior of leaders, again, at any level, has a huge impact upon the success of what you're trying to achieve, because you've got essentially, when you're a good leader of people, you have to bring the way you win and become successful is you've got to take people on that journey with you. And when you look at sport, I actually think Jose, for instance, when he was really upset in that summer before he went, I think he was right to be upset because he was thrown under the bus by the Glazers. They wouldn't let him get rid of the players he wanted, and they wouldn't sign the players that he wanted. But instead of using that pain to galvanize his squad together, he basically just kept on saying, and I'm not saying Pep's doing this to a little degree, but what Jose was saying is, I can't win with this team. I can't sign the players I need. This team is doomed. There's no way those players are going to work for him. Pep keeps sitting there and saying, we're losing, but we're losing because I've got some players missing. The message that's sending to everyone else is, he don't think we're good enough. It's hard to make people continue to run through walls for you when you're doing that. And Pep's amazing, but he's never faced this adversity. And I think these are his mistakes. They really are.
If Pep is saying the players that I currently have and we're not winning, what confidence would these players have? If the players he currently has and they're having these type of results, you think they're not looking at each other and being like, we're just not good enough? But Pep's kind of giving them an out. Pep's giving them an out to say, you know what? We're not fully strong yet.
He's not giving.
Pep is indirectly saying they're not good enough by saying, I need my players back.
Yeah.
They're on the field, and if
he's not giving them an out,
and the manager's like, I need my players back. Like, what kind of confidence are you going to have?
He needs the squad back, is what he's saying. If he were to say in the transfer window,
he's doing the opposite to giving them an out. He's absolutely nailing them to the post and saying, who I've currently got can't get us to win. That is, for me, in moments of adversity, I've criticized Man United managers for doing it. I'm not going to sit here and change my stance. Pep's amazing. That's a mistake from him, though. And amazing people still make mistakes.
But at the same time,
can I explain to you, Vader, because something happened?
Let me just deal with.
Because I don't think you get the point.
Making this point,
I don't think you're getting the point. If I'm playing every game and I keep losing games, and my manager is going in the press conference, and I have another player that my manager thinks is better than me, and keeps saying I'm losing because I have injuries, I'm gonna look at my like I'm not good enough. But the manager is telling people I'm not good enough.
And I want to say as well here, Jim here. I'm going to come to you, but I want this viewer's point is important, and I'm going to come to you. Just relax. We've got time. Jose being right is irrelevant. And this is the problem sometimes in this modern day world. Just because you're correct in your assessment doesn't mean the way you put it out there is correct. There's a way of behaving. If I make a mistake at home, you're a father, V, you'll get this. If I make a mistake at home and I'm not quite fair to one of my children, and they point that out to me, there's a way my children have to point that out to me for me to listen. If they're rude and horrible in saying it, I'm still going to punish them because they don't speak to me like that. But if they come to me in the correct way, I'm going to take on board what they're saying. Same as at work. I run the Football Terrace. If I make a mistake, and I do because I'm human, and KJ or anyone that comes to me and says, oh, Terry, this has gone wrong, or you made a mistake here, this has got to be done differently, they come to me with the right approach, with respect and honesty, I can always accept it. If they speak to me like shit or throw me under a bus publicly about it, even though I've made the mistake, I'm coming down hard because you don't do that to me. So it's not about whether you're right or wrong, it's how you behave. And I know we live in this world now, and there are a percentage of YouTubers that are like this as well, where it's, as long as I'm doing what's right, how I behave is acceptable. Please don't ever follow the mantra of those people, because unless they've already made loads of money, those types of people will always end up in trouble, because that isn't how you get through life. Having tact, having guile, and showing respect even when you're right and frustrated and angry is the right way to go when you're leading people. And we're talking about leadership here, not just a general opinion. But sorry, back to you, V.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why you select certain panelists to come on the show, because it's how you communicate. So you can say one thing being diplomatic, you can say one thing being respectful. And I think what Pep is doing, because it's clear as day, Mo brings up the example. If I'm one of the players and Pep saying we need to get the squad back, you know whether you're better than the person that regularly starts ahead of you or not, right? Players on this team, and we started this show by pointing out, Gundo came to the squad not to be a starter. Kova came to this team not to be a starter. So when Pep says there's certain players that need to come back, no player, professional or not, are being like, he doesn't rate me. He knows that I need to raise my level. And he's not throwing these players under the bus, in my opinion, because if he were to go out and say we need to go out and get players in a January transfer window, that's telling the entire squad that they're not good enough.
I understand that point. All I'm going to say is that when it's other managers, ex-footballers, pundits, people that have played the game have all said that is not a good way to treat your squad. I'm not going to change my view on that because it's Pep Guardiola. I understand where you're coming from. Of course, Gundogan's going to know that his legs aren't as good as he was a few years ago, but there's a way in which I actually agreed with Jose when he was criticizing Luke Shaw for being overweight. Was it right for him to say it publicly? Absolutely not. I agreed with. I would agree with dropping any player as we did Jadon Sancho if he isn't training hard enough, but out and doing it publicly, even though that was a specific example about an individual, is wrong. Yeah. What Amarin has told us that certain players haven't been doing the right things, but he's made it more generic, but he's given them an opening to come back in. There's a way in which you do these things.
And Pep's been very generic with regards to the squad.
Yes, but it's okay. Yeah, no, I do. But I think that when he keeps doing it, like I've said, keeps doing it, it wears people down. He's an all-time great manager, but this is why people say Fergie is the GOAT, because even without his best players out, he can still get results. We're seeing how Pep is when he ain't got.
So naive. These are kids sending the super chats.
Perfect.
Literally, these guys are so.
Yeah,
they're so delusional.
With money. Yeah, children with money.
Yeah, you send a super chat like this.
Well done, Joshua Jack. Spot on, Josh. Spot on, Joshua Jack. Spot on, my old mate. Liverpool win the League Cup with kids because there's an injury crisis, yet City have injuries and it's poor City. But this is a great point again. There are solutions. The manager has got to find them.
Pep is just trying to protect them. I don't agree with it, but that's what he's trying to do.
When Fergie went and signed Juan Sebastian Veron, having fantastic midfield, and he was one of the best midfielder in Serie A at that time.
Yeah,
bro, great managers need great players. You're delusional.
Yes. Well, no one has denied that Sir Alex didn't buy excellent players. What people are talking about when it comes to that previous super chat is that when United did have major injuries to players being missing, we had Cantona miss a season because he kicked a racist and stuff. We didn't drop off in this fashion. They're saying that Man United still remained highly competitive, didn't win only one game in 12 as an example. And to your own words, V, earlier, without the right players, City's system absolutely collapses. What all Man United fans are saying about the debate about Pep and Fergie is without Fergie's best players, our entire system and team didn't collapse.
But Fergie didn't win 3 in a row. He didn't win 3 years in a row. He didn't win the league title 3 in a row.
He won the league.
Hang on.
He did it twice. He did that twice. He won 3 in a bounce twice. Crisis, 3 in a row twice, Hamza. You done yourself there, mate. Crisis, 6 defeats in 12. All comps, 27 goals conceded, 24 points this season. You've only dropped 23 points last season in totality. Haaland ain't scoring. City don't win. That's from Dugout Football. Thank you for the super chat, bro. And Pep played Rico at left back and left centre back, and Guardiola is a centre back at left back. Yeah, he's trying to find that solution. I want to thank our title sponsors again at Sally. If you're someone that uses an eSIM, whether it's to contact somebody in another country, whether it's you're traveling, go and check out Sally right now. Very secure. Don't be taking those SIM cards off people in airports when you arrive either, or wherever it ports, wherever you're traveling through. So much corruption and so much fraudery, so much hacking that's being done through that. Use Sally. It's powered by NordVPN. I know a lot of you use them as a VPN provider as well. So go and check that out now. 15% discount ahead of Christmas. You might have a brother or a friend who's going traveling. Go and get it signed up now as a Christmas present for them. Trust me, they're going to love you for it, so they can keep in contact with everyone. Plus, they're giving away up to 5 gigabytes of free data as well. So scan the QR code on the screen or click the link below. I want to thank my panel. I want to thank all of our super chatters today as well. You're absolutely amazing. We're back live after Crystal Palace versus Arsenal. So please join us around. That'll be around about 7:15. I'm going to go and walk my dog as I'm still trying to walk off the 1 chip challenge from yesterday. It's still burning. Ooh. Genuinely. Yikes. But I made a big mistake when I did it. A lot of the powder, as I put it into my mouth, fell all over my lips and mouth. The swelling was crazy. Like my mouth on the outside hurt more than the inside. But I did it. At the end of the day, I did it, but it wasn't. I don't want to do it again. I'm telling you, that was a killer. Oh, Tony here has just said Hamza doesn't know how negative adversity works. Sir Alex Ferguson will always be the GOAT. He knew how to motivate the players, even if that meant selling his best, is what Tony has got to say here. I want to thank everyone who's tuned in. If you haven't hit the like button yet, please go and get that done for us. That's important that is done. Thank you everyone for coming on and having their say. I'm just trying to check if this video is meant to be redirecting anywhere. I'm not too sure if it is. Hang on a second. It's not that I can see. So no. We'll see you in a couple of hours time, people. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again soon. Peace.